if you're going to decide that you no longer are going to cause harm, you first have to realize that you're causing harm. When you realize that you're causing harm, which many of my colleagues have and have indeed realized, you then have to weigh, is it more important for me to take home $300,000 and cause harm, or is it more important than me not to cause harm and find something else to do with my life?
Hey everyone, my name is Pete Ferrari. Welcome to the Super Self podcast series. We are very fortunate today to have Dr. Fred Moss with us. Dr. Moss is the Undoctor. I love that term. Can't wait to dive into it. He's also the founder of Welcome to Humanity. He is a board certified psychiatrist, got his MD at Northwestern, has treated over 30,000 patients and really tried to change the narrative with regard to mental health and well-being, which I think is critical, especially nowadays. So I'm super excited to jump in. He's multiple books. He's got a podcast series. We're very lucky to have Dr. Moss here today. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Thanks for a very gracious introduction. I appreciate you. I look forward to our conversation, and it's a privilege and honor to be here, Pete. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's certainly my pleasure, and I'm happy to dive right in. You've got to tell everyone. Now, I know, but you've got to tell everyone, what is undoctoring? Let's start there.
Yeah, so we can start there, but it does come with roots, but I'd be glad to start there. So the idea is, I got this name from a friend of mine because as I was talking, I really learned that diagnoses and medications, which if you look up what it means to be a psychiatrist in like Wikipedia or Google right now, it'll tell you that we have two jobs, and that is to diagnose and medicate. That's what a psychiatrist does. I don't like doing either of those things. In the end, I actually really despise doing both of those things. And I've written over 100,000 prescriptions estimated. And in that process, every single one of them has been kind of a soul sacrifice, kind of at least a little bit of a heartache. Every time I sign off, I'm like, ooh, I don't know, man. I don't like it. And, I took an oath, and I took that oath long before the Hippocratic oath, an oath not to do harm. I was born. I don't have it that doing harm is a good idea. And I'm not positive that diagnosing and medication aren't ways of doing harm to my clients. So I don't like diagnosing people. That goes a long ways, and it takes some roots for me to explain that. But really, what's here is, I was born to be a healer. I was born to be a communicator. I was born in a family in chaos and disarray. And my two brothers, 10 and 14 years older than me, were already here with my parents. And there was a fair amount of conflict between these teenagers and my parents. And I was called on to bring joy and peace and unity to that family. And I did so through communication. I just learned that when I do this or do that I could create this mood or that outcome. By being a bundle of joy, or by crying, or by laughing, or by spelling, or by doing easy math, or whatever it took, I could actually change the aspects of a room by communicating. And I used to watch my brothers. I remember vividly from my playpen, watching my brothers speak with my parents and wishing that someday I could be a big boy like them and learn how to communicate. And I really have spent the rest of my years learning how to communicate, like from that very first day. And I knew how to speak. I was very precocious, as you can imagine. And, by the time I got into elementary school, I was a talking machine. I knew a little bit about a lot of things that my peers didn't know about. I knew a little bit about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but I also knew a little bit about math and a little bit about reading and writing. And so, I could actually be ahead of my class. I was like the so-called smartest in the class, but I was also the most talkative in the class. And, there's nothing wrong with talking. At least that's the way I now know it. There's nothing wrong with talking. But in school, they tell you to be quiet, sit down, and do what the teacher does. And I really saw immediately that I was disappointed with that. I thought I was going to learn how to communicate in school, and that isn't how it was really going. So I figured, well, it must happen later on, maybe junior high, because somewhere my brothers learned it. So how do we do this? And so I looked, forward and anticipated junior high as being the place where I finally would be able to open up. But no, of course, it got worse. Sit down, really sit down and be quiet. And it's like, all right, well, it must be high school. So in high school, I went there. I was like semi-excited, little bit disillusioned by now. I was like, well, let's give it a try. We'll see. And so I got to high school, and it's got even worse. Now, here's the thing. During high school, I really did communicate with people. I really did learn how to communicate, but none of it took place in the classroom. All of it took place when I was skipping class or getting outside or being, I skipped a lot of classes. I skipped a lot of classes because what I really wanted to do was communicate. So why sit in a room where I have no communication, trying to learn something that has no pertinence whatsoever? And
Amazing.
I instead, hit the streets. I went out there. I learned how to ride my bike past the barriers. I learned how to hitchhike. I learned how to hitchhike all over Detroit area. I was like, that's just what I did. I was always seeking out more communication. And then it came a decision about college. And, it was like, well, 40 miles to the west with these very cool helmets is the college I want to go to. And I went to the University of Michigan. And,
You went to Michigan.
I did. I went to Michigan for a year and a half as an engineer, and I couldn't stand it. It was no communication whatsoever, and I was learning, I guess, important calculus and biology and physics and all that. But it was like, well, this isn't what I want to do. I'm out of here. And so I got on a bus and took a bus across the country to Berkeley, California, to find out who I was. And I found out who I was that summer. I had a great summer working in the youth hostel and hanging out in Berkeley, California. And but it wasn't really sustainable. And then my parents and my brothers, a little bit concerned about me, I think. They were like, "There's a new industry you might be really good at. You should try it out." And I was like, "All right, what do you got?" And they said, "Well, you might have heard of the industry. It's actually called computers." And it was like, "Yeah, let's go. Let's go. I could probably do a computer thing." So there's only one computer in all of Michigan. Of course, it's in Ann Arbor. And so I'm on the way back to Ann Arbor one more time. And I'm in computer science and I'm learning how to do computers and batch jobs and punch cards and all of that. And it's like, dude, sitting in a 2-acre computer facility, not happening. This is not going to work. No communication at all. I'm not going to do this. So I dropped out one more time, giving a solemn promise that I would never, ever, ever go back to school again. And instead, my mom, moms will do this. My mom's like, okay, yeah, you don't have to go back to school, but you got to get a job. I'm like, oh, whatever, let's get a job then. And so she got me an application to be a child care worker at a state mental health facility for adolescent boys. And I started that in January of 1980, and I've really been going ever since. But I really thought that I would keep that job for 3 weeks. I really did. No kidding. Because orientation was 3 weeks long and I didn't want to go to the floors. I was scared. So I was like, let's just get 3 paychecks, buy myself a car and drive around the country and figure out my life with it. Yeah, exactly. I made it very evident to everybody around that I was only hanging around for orientation. And on that 4th week, that 4th Monday, my friend Paul, who later became a very good friend of mine, convinced me or guilted me into coming up to Meadowview 5 and be with those 17-year-olds on that Monday. I was like, oh, dude, I don't know. And I was like, so off I went, Meadowview 5 that Monday. And there we started. And from there, I got to realize that I was finally being paid to communicate. And that's really all I really needed to do was respect these people like they were people and not treat them like they were less than me and not treat them like they were sick and not treat them like they were anything but human beings trying to figure out how to make sense of this whole thing. And when I did that together with me and them, we created healing. Like all of a sudden I got very good at this job, because all I had to do was communicate. And that's what I've longed to do my whole life.
That's what makes you singularly different than the predominance of other MDs is that you're actually talking with someone. You're not just drawing distinctions, drawing judgments, asking a few questions, passing on the diagnosis and thereby extension, the eventual prescription. You're actually talking to the person, getting to understand what's going on, right?
It's lunacy, dude. Why would I do such a crazy thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. And what I love about it the most, and we talk about this on this podcast series all the time, is it sounds to me, based upon your journey, you are highly instinctive and you're very instinctively driven. We talk about that all the time on this podcast. You've got to rely on your instincts. You've got to get back to your instincts. With the advent of social media, we don't have to think anymore. Now with ChatGPT, we really don't have to think. We can just ask for an answer. And so the fact that you, even at a young age, said, okay, I'm going to skip class. Doesn't mean I'm dumb, right? Back when we were young, I'm going to be 60. If you skip class, you were a dummy back when I was a kid because it was a parochial environment. But you had the instinct to say, you know what, I want to be out communicating. I want to be out doing my thing. went to Michigan, Ivy League school, basically, top school. Anybody would dream of being there. Said, you know what? Not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Instinctively jumped in the car, went to Cali, came back when you had to. So my point is that what drives you, the instinct that drives you, is what has you helping people the most. And I believe it's the most critical component of what humankind needs to get back to, especially in this country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this reference to instinct. I think you're right. I think I do have some instinctual blessings. They're not really skills; they're just something that I've been blessed with. And the idea is that we live life once. After all, we really do have one opportunity to be in this dimension, and you might as well free yourself up and do something aligned with your core values. You're aligned with your authentic, genuine self. You might as well. And my job. When I started with these kids, or so-called kids, again, they're just a few years younger than me, there was this idea that I could be really good and I could show these kids a good time and show them what it's like to be respected. And in the meantime, be respected by them and have them show me what a good time is. So there was a mutuality here, not like I had something to offer and I was sitting in my pie in the sky area. Not at all. What I had to offer was I was a fellow human who could actually assist people in coming to grips with their true and honest self. And when I did that, the thing I disliked about that job more than anything was psychiatry. Actually, the emergence of psychiatry. Psychiatry was terrible, and it was long before even the advent of Prozac. So Prozac got invented in 1987, but in the early 80s. I could see the direction that psychiatry was going by the fact that we were using injectables and we were using physical restraints, chemical restraints, when anyone would do something that we didn't like. If the staff didn't like you being up too late, or if the staff thought you shouldn't have fought each other, or the staff thought you were screaming too loud, then we would chemically or physically restrain you. We would do that on the order. And by the way, you shake your head as if that's an odd event. That's happened already several hundred times today.
Really? Still today?
Absolutely. There's no reason to believe that this is reduced in any real way at all. No reason to believe it. Anyone who believes it is just holding up blinders. There's no way that it's not. It has happened hundreds of times today in this country already, what I just described. Hundreds of times, for sure.
Is it because it's such a shortcut for the people that are in charge?
It's not a shortcut.
I can shut them up. I can shut them down.
I can shut them off. Shooting your dog because he's barking too much. It's not. That's a shortcut. You won't get a barking dog anymore, but you don't have a dog anymore.
Great metaphor. Great metaphor. Yeah. I mean, you're right, and that's where it goes back to the caring component, right? Caring to understand, caring to communicate, and that's where the Moss method comes in. And I think the Moss method's been critical. It could be even more critical if it would be used instead of chemical and restraints.
Thank you for pointing that out. So yeah, it was that precise action that we had to go, retrieve Jimmy after he had been in a fight with Johnny, and then hold him down on the quiet room floor, and then pack his hip full of some homemade concoction of multiple sedative medications that's going to leave him in a stupor and a near coma. And if that happens, then we can call it a success story. That just seems so barbaric and not aligned with my own humanity that I thought I could go back into the field and bring communication centrally to a field that was headed in a different direction. That's a pretty lofty goal, and in some ways even grandiose, that I would be able to carry that off. But my 14-year-old brother was already a psychiatrist, so I knew there was a pathway here. And I eventually decided, let's go. I'll keep my job and go complete my undergraduate degree at Wayne State, downtown Detroit, and then head on out to become a psychiatrist. And so that's what I did. I stayed pointed over the next 9 years and got my psychiatric degree. And then, my MD, and then made it down to Cincinnati for my residency and my fellowship. And I raised my family in Cincinnati. And, when I finally got expelled from the educational system, it was more so, the typecast was more so than ever before. This idea of diagnostician and psychopharmacologist was all I was really caught out to do. And knowing our patients, I was like, most docs were like, why would we have to do that? We're just medicating them. It's like, you're insane. This is so crazy. So in 2006, I had enough. I had about 15 years at that point doing this whole dance around my own duplicity, hiding behind trees so that I could, somehow learn who my patients were on the side of actually giving them diagnoses that weren't aligned with what I really believed, and then treating them with medications that I was pretty certain would make them worse. Well, I was doing all that shit for too long, and at some point I just threw down and said, I can't do it anymore. So I started doing something a little bit different in 2006. It was a big year for a lot of reasons. And I took a big handful of my clients. I had about 2,000 outpatient clients, and I took a big handful of them and took them off their medicine. And not only did I take them off their medicine, I took them off their diagnosis. I told them that I no longer saw them with that diagnosis at all, and just saw what happened, did an experiment, a couple hundred of them. And this group got better, way better, like remarkably better, profoundly better, predictably better, reliably better. They were just better. And to the point that often, way more often than not, the diagnosis they thought they had that was giving them the need to take the medicine disappeared entirely. So they no longer were depressed after stopping their antidepressants. They no longer were anxious after stopping their anxiety medicine. They no longer had mood instability after stopping their mood stabilizers. And they were no longer psychotic after they stopped their antipsychotics, as a matter of fact, because these medicines actually induce, increase, perpetuate, or in some cases cause the symptoms they're marketed to treat, which is, by the way, is a fantastic business model. It's like,
that's
so
the
great.
business.
Dude, it's such a great model.
It's a beautiful model. And then the pharmaceutical companies, they create the drugs to treat the side effects from the drugs.
Well, they call them side effects, but they're not actually side effects, because side effects assume that there's some sort of positive effect somewhere, but there isn't.
Great point. That's awesome.
They're not side effects at all. They're actually effects. They're actually designed to be embedded in the drug experience. There's nothing nefarious about that. I want to make that really clear. There's nothing egregious about creating a business that actually creates your need to come back and buy the product that you originally bought. There's nothing inherently nefarious about it. What we start looking at, I tried to call Big Pharma yesterday, except I couldn't find their phone number. If you can help me out with that, that'd be really great.
1-800 screw me over.
Yeah, you could say that, but I want you to get something, which is they are not screwing you over or anyone over. Let's really look at this. The reason they're not is because there's volition involved. If you eat rat poison, you'll get sick.
Yeah.
If you eat medications, you'll get sick.
Yeah.
It is not the medications or the creator of the medications that are causing that problem. When I started to veer off after 2006, because, man, when I found this out, I was like violent. I was like, I got to go to the top of the mountains and scream this shit to everybody. I got to tell my colleagues and my parents of kids. I got to tell my friends. I got to tell my family. I got to tell everyone, look at the experiment I just ran. It's so crazy. But instead of being violent, because that didn't work, that just looks like a ranting, crazy doctor. I don't want to do that. I have to back off and find, how can I be presentable about what I'm finding here? And so over the next few years, I kind of look, where's the entryway where we can be gentle and actually make a big difference in it. And here's what I discovered. I think you'll appreciate this. You're a very great listener, by the way. And I think that what I discovered was that the essence, this flashpoint, the flint of the whole thing, is that people think they know that there's something wrong with them. That's the problem. Because the only reason you go to a doctor is knowing that there's something wrong with you. So here's the thing. People do not come to a psychiatrist to find out if there's something wrong with them.
Right.
People come to a psychiatrist to find out what's wrong with them.
What is it? That's a great point.
It's a really cool point. And here's the other point. That's deep proof of that. I believe that we are the only subspecialty in all of the medical world for when we tell somebody that they're okay, they get pissed.
Well, because on some level they're looking, because it would answer a lot of questions. Right? Why am I depressed? Why am I insecure? Why am I pissed off? I have this. So you're validating. And when you 100%. Say, listen, you're fine, it's an upsetting of the apple cart.
Well, it's really 100%. It's like, you can say that it gives a sense that, okay, what it really does is it gives a sense that says, that's not me. That's my alphabet soup of a diagnosis.
That's my thing.
That's my ADHD. That's my bipolar. That's my autistic spectrum disorder. That's my
alcoholism.
Schizoaffective. That's my social phobia. That's my whatever you want to say. And And that's cool, but it's like there's an assumption there that I wish I didn't have this condition, then I wouldn't have to be the jerk I've become. It's like, dude, you are the jerk you've become. Welcome to humanity. It's okay because
Yep.
we're all jerks. It's
Yep.
really okay. And you are that jerk. And by the way, you're going to do yourself a whole big favor if you take responsibility for the areas in life where you're a total jerk. Like,
Hmm.
it's okay. It's okay. It really is okay. We don't have a template. We don't have a manual. We don't have a recipe book for how it is to be a good human being. We're all just kicking it around, stumbling, bumbling, and tumbling through what it means to be alive,
Yep.
how it is we present ourselves, what do we say, what do we do, who do we be? We all are asking ourselves these questions, and there is no adequate answer that fits us universally. For instance, we think we have a really good idea of what's abnormal. That's hilarious because none of us have an idea of what normal is.
We're
So,
all, yeah,
how in
exactly.
the world can we call abnormal if we don't even have a benchmark? Like,
True.
it's only abnormal because the listener thinks it's outside of their range of comfort.
Yes.
So, and sometimes it's inside their range. So, these days you come to a psychiatrist, if you say my mind's racing, they're already on you have bipolar. If you say I cried yesterday, they're already on you have depression. If you say I don't complete tasks at work, boom, you have
You have
ADHD.
ADHD.
If you're having a
Yes.
problem communicating with people, boom, you're on the spectrum. If you had an event where you watched I don't know, some kid get mauled by a dog, boom,
You
you
have
have
PTSD.
PTSD. Exactly. You already
100%.
know that. That's how it goes. There's no diagnostic procedures going on anymore. And by the way, every single time, without fail, that one goes to see a psychiatrist, they get a diagnosis. People think you can go to a psychiatrist and not get a diagnosis. Dude, you cannot do that.
And then they
And
prescribe
that
something,
holds
and
it.
that's the game.
Well, they can prescribe, but even if they don't prescribe, let's say you come in and you tell them, I don't want medicine. They say, okay, but anyways, if they're going to get paid, they're going to put a diagnosis on that insurance form.
Yeah.
And then you have that diagnosis. That's not a diagnosis that was put there to fill your insurance form. This is now something you're dragging along with you for the rest of your life, I promise. And it might totally interfere with some things down the future. For instance, life insurance. For
Yeah.
instance, there are even job employment opportunities if that stuff gets public, which it can do.
Sure.
So diagnoses are the issue, and people just clamor to get diagnoses. So when I tell you that it's not you, you have BAD, you have bipolar disorder, you're like, cool, that is so cool. That finally, I can't wait to come home and tell my wife that the reason I scream at her every night is I got bipolar disorder. Like,
Right.
dude, that's not the reason you scream at your wife. You scream at your
Right.
wife because you scream at your wife.
Because you're being a
That's
dick.
whatever you think. Whatever you think your reason is, that's why you're doing it. But,
Yeah.
when we start looking at, wow, maybe there's nothing wrong with you or them or
Yeah.
him or her. Maybe
It's
there's
just
nothing wrong.
moods.
It's
They're
just
just
what it is.
moods.
It's just what it is.
They're circumstances. They're
It's
events.
just
They're
what it is.
dynamics. Exactly.
You're just
And
being you.
it's so poignant that you're saying this, because in raising, my daughter's 22, and in raising a child around all of the things you've been describing, I've had to make a concerted effort to really drill into her head. No, you don't have ADHD because you don't feel like doing your homework tonight. You just don't feel like doing your homework tonight. And
Exactly.
so, and no, you don't have social anxiety because you got nervous before a tennis match. You got nervous
Exactly.
before a tennis match because it's nerve wracking. And so
Exactly.
I had to make a concerted effort. And, people throw around that PTSD term. That really makes me kind of borderline angry, because that term should be reserved only for soldiers. There are forms of traumatic responses, and you can say I've been traumatized for sure. That's real. But the PTSD thing, it just seems a little colloquially used nowadays, and I'm not sure I like that. But to your point, it's so easy to diagnose. And now with Google and ChatGPT, they can come in with a bullet point listing for you of what they have because they just ChatGPT'd it.
Yeah, they don't even need to. Doctors are in a hurry to diagnose just as much as you're in a hurry to be diagnosed. And we know our buzzwords. We know the drug companies have taught us what buzzwords to listen for. And if the medications, all that we're listening for in many cases are the things that the medications actually cause, which is kind of hilarious too, in a very tragic way. Meaning that when you take these medicines, you actually get the symptoms you're marketed to treat. And so that's very exciting for the business. Dude, if me and you would have designed this business model, we'd be in the freaking hills. We'd be
straight. We'd be
so good. We'd be so set up. It's a great model.
Yeah.
And no one piece of it is the cause. That's the other thing, is that everybody in the whole conglomerate is doing what they've been taught to do and thinks they're doing the right thing. And in fact, they are. They're good people. They could be my neighbors. They can take care of my cats or my kids or whatever. That's fine. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm saying they're doing what they're doing, but the system is built so fantastically that it actually works to create billions, literally, check this, billions of dollars per day in profit margin alone.
That's crazy.
Billions of dollars per day in profit margin alone. Now, look, it's crazy, but it's fantastic. I want a business who has $1 billion a day in profit margin.
It's beautiful. It's like it's diabolical. It's just this beautiful diabolical system.
Super great word. I love the word.
Yep.
Good choice.
And it's like you said, it's self-fulfilling.
It is self-fulfilling. And guess who launches it? The person who thinks there's something wrong with them. That's it.
Full circle.
That's the whole point. You see, when we really get out there, that's where the trigger is. Imagine knowing that there's nothing wrong with you. When you get to there, there's never going to be a reason that you go to see a mental health specialist to get fixed. Because you're good.
Yep.
Now you're good being bad. You're good being miserable. You're good being in serious suffering. You're good being an asshole. You're
being angry.
You're good being sad. You're good being hopeless. You're good with no comfort in a crowd. You're good even if you can't get your work done in time for deadline. You're good for all of that. It's all good.
Yeah.
You're not sick. Jiddu Krishnamurti, I'm sure someone you idolize as well. I really love the man. He said, "It is no sign of mental health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." It's brilliant. It's super brilliant.
That is brilliant.
It's
spot on. It's right in the bullseye.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really the tragic part of it, is just the conditioning that's going on a massive scale.
Yeah,
everybody's just conditioned.
Everyone is conditioned. They're being gaslit. You're being told, like, we don't blame a log for burning in the fire. Life is really, really hard. It's true. It's really confusing. It's hard to stay focused. It's impossible to stay focused, as a matter of fact. If you're staying focused in this life, there's something crazy about you. I'm just saying, man. It's like, if you're not being pulled in multiple different directions, like every single hour, you're living under a rock. And, it's okay to be distracted. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you either.
No, I mean, this is good stuff, because the things that you're saying, it's strange, because I'm sure that you reflect on your methodologies, and as you're writing these books, does it ever strike you just so obviously that what you're saying is really just practical? Dude, you're pragmatic. You're just a realistic dude, right?
Does it ever strike me? That's a great question. And of course, it strikes me like every single day. Here's the thing. I'm not saying anything that every one of us doesn't know.
Amen, brother. And it's I don't know if are people scared to say it, or they're too.
Here's the thing. Look, if inside the system, so my colleagues, for instance, they are, they're caught up in the sales of what it is that they represent. They're doing what they're doing, and they're saying what they're saying, and diagnosing what they're diagnosing, and then providing whatever treatment that they can provide, including medications that they have been taught to deliver, and they're making good money and keeping a family together based on all that. So in order to deconstruct that, you have to have some serious courage, dude. You have to like give it all up. That's that. If you're going to decide that you no longer are going to cause harm, you first have to realize that you're causing harm. When you realize that you're causing harm, which many of my colleagues have and have indeed realized, you then have to weigh, is it more important for me to take home $300,000 and cause harm, or is it more important than me not to cause harm and find something else to do with my life? That is a very tough question when you're rolling around 300K. And I just want to say, I respect the dudes who choose 300K as well.
It's impossible. It's an impossible choice because it's not just you that pays the price for that, right? If I had all of a sudden this lightning rod of humility, I no longer want to do harm. I'm giving away the 300 grand. If I'm by myself, that's fine. But when I've got children and I got a dog and I've got a spouse, now all of a sudden I'm crushing however many other lives because I've had this conscience check. It's impossible.
It's a very difficult thing. And here's the other thing. I've tried to get out of this field. I told you I was in that orientation for 3 weeks. I've been looking for 3 weeks for 45 freaking years.
I love it.
I have been looking at 3 weeks from now for 46 plus years.
Brilliant.
Fully certain that in about 3 weeks, I'm out of here.
That's amazing.
And I'm still trailing along. To believe it or not, as of today, in the early November of 2025, I am definitely looking at December 1st of being out of here for good. It's like
that's fantastic.
It's just true.
I mean, well, shit. You've always got something to look forward to. It's like Groundhog Day, except it's Groundhog 3 weeks.
Well, I've gotten closer and closer. I'm now doing some very cool work. And so you mentioned the Moss method. That's a very cool thing that I've compiled that help people find their own core self and their own balance and their own alignment using techniques that all of us can utilize, such as meditation or gratitude or hydration or nutrition or creativity or nature or being of spirituality or being of service, sleep hygiene, breathing exercises,
nutrition. I'm sure.
Yeah, I had that earlier. Yeah, organic food and really just taking care of our basic selves that can really align us no matter what you think your condition is. So there's another disclaimer that I always feel forced to make on a podcast, and it's just a true disclaimer. It's okay. Is that there is a handful of people, if not a lot of people, probably just a handful of people who are now presently watching or listening to the show who are pretty sure that their diagnosis saved them and they love their therapist, they love their treatment, and they love their medications, and they wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yes.
Here's what I have to say about that group. Please keep doing what you're doing. No kidding, sincerely. Like, I'm not telling you need to change at all. You don't need to change.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
If you think it's working, if you're at a point in your life where you're pretty sure you wouldn't trade this for anything, you got to keep that. You got to keep doing that because life doesn't provide that opportunity very often in any field.
Right.
If you're unwilling to trade up, good for you. I'm speaking to the tens or literally hundreds of millions of people who don't agree with that, who are saying things like the system failed me, they misdiagnosed me, they underdiagnosed me, they overdiagnosed me, they mistreated me, they mismedicated me, they undermedicated me, they overmedicated, da-da-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. I'm speaking to those people. Those people know that the system is not entirely the best place to go when you're feeling uncomfortable. We think that we know, go to a psychiatrist. Well, it's not that simple, dude. When you go to a psychiatrist, now you get a diagnosis forever. And now I give you a treatment that is likely to make you worse progressively, has no capacity to heal you ever. And now I give you a diagnosis that has you think that you have a perpetual condition that can relapse at any time. You have a propensity towards a return of whatever your symptoms were. And thereby you have an ongoing, uncurable, devastating condition and a label and a diagnosis that is going to be in your way, but you don't care really because it has given you the right to relinquish responsibility for your life.
That's right. You've got the answer. It's my illness. It's my sickness. And to your point, it's tornadic. You end up in this tornadic system that is going to go on and potentially gain speed forever. And that's
true.
It's a very, it's not an attractive place to be, but it's, to your point, the person has got to want to be able to break free from that.
It's really interesting. There's only one way that I know to break free from that. And that's what the Undoctor Reset is about. There's only one real way that I know to break free from that, for real. And that is truly coming to grips with there is nothing wrong with you and there never was.
I love it.
You have to come to grips with that, because if you continue to maintain that I think there's something wrong with me, then you are compelled to go find the fix. And when you are compelled to go find the fix, where else to go but into the place that has been conditioned right into your soul, which is go to the doctor. We go to the doctor when we're not feeling well. And
Yep.
we expect the doctor to be some sort of superhuman genius to be able to provide some sort of comfort. Now, in our medication realm, or even in the therapy realm, it does tend, someone shows up and they show some care for you, and you're like, oh yeah, he's kind, he looks good, he seems smart. I like him. Let's go to that doctor a few times, and then they give you a medication, and that medication is something that might provide some comfort. In the same way, well, I guess that a Band-Aid with a razor blade embedded in it would provide some comfort for a cut for a short time. If you had a
Sure.
cut for a short time and you put a Band-Aid on that had a razor blade embedded in it, it would cover the cut
Yep.
for a short period of time until the blood started oozing out of the side of the Band-Aid. And when the blood
Overflowed.
starts doing that, us doctors, we've only been taught three things to do at that point. We can add medicine, increase medicine, or change medicine. That's all we can do, because we
Oh,
certainly are not going to blame the Band-Aid.
right.
That isn't
Great
how
point.
we do it.
Great point. That's the operative point.
We don't blame the Band-Aid. So doctors in the second visit, there's a very common absurd second visit tendency. It's pretty absurd, and it happens enough so that every doctor knows it happens. Here's what it is. Someone comes in and says, doctor, the medicine's helped and I'm worse. It's like, oh yeah, that's a very interesting combination, isn't it? Like, it helped and you're worse. That's so
Yeah.
fascinating.
It's paradoxical and
Let's
kind
take a
of,
look at that.
yeah,
Because instantly what it does is it provides some sort of wet blanket over whatever your mood or your experience is, so that you do get a change of state. Why do I know that? Because it's built to create a chemical imbalance. It does create a chemical imbalance. You didn't have a chemical imbalance before. You were just being you. But you definitely have a chemical imbalance after you eat chemicals that are intended to imbalance you.
100%.
So now you have a chemical imbalance, and now you can walk away with the idea that that the medicines were well chosen for you. So the doctor comes in. I mean, when the patient comes in and says that, we only have three choices: add, increase, or change. That's what we have. It would be absurd and right next to being called malpractice to stop treatment when your patient got worse.
Good point. Malpractice if you stop it. For sure, I can see that.
Even if it is the only thing that could work.
That makes perfect sense to me. It's an absolute shame, and that's the tone. I mean, that's the tone of the way it's working.
And it is the same way of the tone, and with psychiatry, it's kind of amplified, because check this out. Let's say I am responsible for my patient throwing a hand grenade into McDonald's 4 weeks after seeing me.
Oh, God bless.
Right? Where do you go? The guy saw a psychiatrist. Let's go back to a psychiatrist. When you saw the guy 4 weeks ago, what'd you do? I increased his Seroquel by 100 milligrams. Yeah? You see that he threw a hand grenade into McDonald's? Yeah. That's your fault, bro. It's like, what? I could absolutely be sued in that situation.
Interesting.
Successfully.
Yeah.
As if I'm responsible for him doing anything ever.
Yeah.
But that's the level of liability that psychiatrists have to deal with when considering that. And so, look, if I take you off medicine and then you throw a hand grenade into McDonald's, now because I'm so odd, by taking you off medicine instead of adding, increasing, or changing, it's obvious that I'm causative by pulling you out of the thing that was so-called keeping you smothered.
No, and to your point, the judicial system will support you getting screwed either way. If you added medication and he did it, the judicial system will support you getting screwed. If you take him off and he does it, the whole way it's all geared towards what it triggers, you've got very little option as it relates to not being in the bullseye when something happens.
That's exactly right. And that's why it has taken, the 46 plus years to get me where I am. And that's, the epiphanies or the introductions of my programs since approximately 2013 to 2016. This idea of welcome to humanity, I think it's great. The idea of global madness is also great. The idea of true voice technology is also great. The idea of creative aid is also great. The Undoctor is phenomenal, and so is the Moss method. And all those things, they're all extensions of the same thing we're talking about here. None of them are very away to very
They're
much from all of those.
they're facets of the same diamond.
They're the same diamond, exactly.
Yeah, and that's why it's interesting. You just gave me the perfect segue of what I wanted to ask you, because I think this is important for listeners across the podcasts, across the books, across your methodology. Where if someone says, "Well, wait a minute, maybe I'm not fucking sick. I want to look into this more." Across all of the access that people would have to you, where should they start to dip their toe into this?
Yeah, so I think there's really two places. If that's where they are, then I think Undoctor Reset is undoctorreset.com is a good place. But the best place, and it has a banner that leads you to Undoctor Reset anyways as soon as you land there, is drfred360.com. drfred360.com has everything that I've ever done. It's a very cool website, very slick, very easy to manage.
I like it. Yeah.
Contact me. You can see all my podcasts. You can see all my contributions. You get access to my books. You get access to my keynotes. You get to actually set up a time with me to talk about whatever your concerns are about yourself or a loved one. And, the whole process is one of now transformational restorative coaching rather than being as a doctor, I have a license. What is my license offer? I have an active license in California, no problem. What does this license offer me, allow me to do? It allows me, as my son, my beautiful, amazing son down in Dallas says, is license is a piece of paper that allows you to do something that would otherwise be illegal.
It's pretty insightful.
Right? It's exactly all it is.
It really is.
That's all it is. That's all a license is.
Yeah.
It's a piece of paper that allows you to do something that would otherwise be illegal. That's it.
Hopefully you had to put some time into getting the license, so you've got the erudition there.
Well, I did. I certainly put my boots on the ground long enough to have a license, and I have had license in multiple states, and I've worked all over this country, and I've worked all over the world as well in telepsychiatry in Bhutan and Nepal and Thailand, Israel, France, England, Italy. Yeah, I've been teaching telepsychiatry since 2013, long before it was a gold standard. I saw it wasn't hard to see that psychiatry and computers went together like chocolate and peanut butter. That was easy to see, and it was like what we're doing now in these new inventions of all the things that we're talking about is we're helping people gain access to their own freedom and gain access to their own power, their own core aligned true self. And we're helping people do that by reminding them that it's okay that they become who they are, but if they want to really align with other people and get that healing that comes from a core human connection, they're going to have to come in tune with what's really at their center. And the way that we do that is clean out the cobwebs, clean out the rust, clean out the dust and the mud, and allow that tuning fork to get back to its own resonating frequency. Because when we actually activate ourselves at that resonating frequency, we get to have relationships like you and I are having. It's pretty clear that you're cleaned up quite a bit. You're pretty evolved in your thinking. You're a good listener. And because of that, we're able to relate at a very high level. I wouldn't be able to say all the things I'm saying if I didn't have a man there who could actually understand and deal with it. So that's a matter of purifying your own essence.
I love that. It's so, you're just preaching to the choir, and so validating when experts like you have overlapping philosophies, because, I'm just a knucklehead. I'm from the gutter, and I, went to college and built some companies. But as it relates to the spiritual, the mind and the soul, and the mind body soul connection, I love it when you talk about getting back to center. I love it when you talk about instincts. I love it when you talk about introspection, because these are core values for me. These are things that I've always tried to do. Turn the mirror, just as simply as when I was married and I had a young child. Whenever my family was reacting a particular way, I made a concerted effort always to turn the mirror on myself first. If they're getting snotty with me and they're being bitchy with me, what am I doing that's eliciting that response from them? And I'll tell you what, so I made a habit, turn the mirror on yourself, Pete. I made a habit of doing that, and I'll tell you what, every single time they were reacting. and I would stop doing whatever I was doing. Some days, if I had been doing it for a while inadvertently, it would take longer for it to wear off with them. If I wasn't doing it for so long, it might wear off in the next couple of days. But invariably, if I was introspecting and I was listening to my gut about treating people in my orbit properly, that same treatment found me in return. And that's why I love what you're saying, because it's been a critical part of my life.
Well, look, as you know, that often gets equated with the idea of having courage. It's fascinating to me that having courage is actually becoming purified to the point of being aligned with your true self, as somehow that's a courageous act. It is thought of as courageous, right? It's like, compared to what? Like compared to what? What would I do?
Delusional?
Being like saying things I don't mean. Like what is that? And we have all reached a point, going back to that first grade experience, we've all reached that point where we've been asked to be somebody that we're not in order to protect the person that we are. And we've all gone through that. And if we don't actually pay attention to that, it just continues. And it's reached a point now where we're willing to not speak when our turn comes and not say what we know is true or helpful. We're willing to say things that just in order to stay into a group and to make sure that we're not disregarded or dismissed. But even more so, and this is the biggest tragedy of all, we're actually willing to spit stuff out of our mouth that even we don't believe.
Amen.
What the hell is that? Can you help me understand that?
Brother, I tell you what, man, that's why I hate to use, I've become more and more reclusive, because whenever I'm in these circles, it's the gaslighting and the vigor with which these people are pontificating, and they know they're full of shit. They know they're saying the wrong thing, but they're speaking so fervently and with such
amazing.
I can't compute it. I can't compute it. I know I can't argue with it. Number one, I know I can't argue.
There's no argument because there's nothing over there. There's nothing to argue. There's nothing over there.
And the other thing I know is I'm not going to change them.
That's right.
So all of a sudden, so I end up with, just to keep my own mental health, I withdraw.
I hear you. And that's that's a sad state of affairs, because ultimately it's going to take all of us to put an end to this nonsense. It's going to take actually meeting with your adversaries. It's going to take actually respecting the people that you otherwise don't respect. It's going to take that ultimately to get on the other side of most of this stuff. But I couldn't agree with you more. I find myself withdrawing, or being really sad, or being really scared, or being really delusional, or really or disillusioned, I should say, and or just kind of having a tendency, why bother, why care, why speak. And all those things, the society is set up at this point where we're all falling into that as a possibility. And there's probably a diagnosis for that as well. So the idea is that we can diagnose anything, and we can diagnose anybody with anything. When people come to my office and they tell me, I got 6 diagnoses, then they proudly list all 6 of them. I'm like, all that really means to me, it doesn't mean that you have 6 diagnoses. It means you saw 6 clinicians. So what? Like, so what, dude? Why? What made you go to another clinician after your first diagnosis? What made you go in the first place? And then once you had one diagnosis, what made you go to 6 others? What were they doing or not doing that was unsatisfactory? And look, I absolutely want to be careful, deeply careful, not to gaslight in any way that this is the patient's problem. I want you to get that the patient's experience, entirely difficult and nearly impossible as it must be to actually take on, is okay. Like, it's real. I'm not diminishing it. I'm not saying get over it. I'm not saying put yourself up by your bootstraps. I'm just telling you it's not pathological. That's all I'm really saying.
That's right. That's important. And it's a very important distinction, and you're spot on. It's not pathological. It's not some type of a psychosis or some kind of a huge major condition. Sometimes you just may be moody. Or you know what else? I'll tell you what. There are times when I'll be, let's say, quote, in a bad mood for a week. It's not because all of a sudden I'm getting bipolar or I'm becoming antisocial. It's because I didn't sleep good for a week. I wasn't sleeping well, so I woke up and I was grumpy, and I didn't even know it was because I wasn't sleeping until I introspect and figure out, you know what, I'm not sleeping. Or I woke up and realized, you know what, I haven't been eating. I've been so busy, I skipped lunch, so I'm eating 1 meal a day instead of 3. I'm hungry and I'm tired. That's why I'm being a dick. Not because I'm antisocial or bipolar, or I have all of these, wannabe conditions. Nutrition, sleep, introspection, you're going to be able to go a long way with figuring out what the hell's going on with you, getting to that true self, and then seeking counsel from someone like you who can help me navigate those new waters. As I'm finding my true self, as I'm learning about these things, these dynamics, I've got a barometer. I've got someone to help me do this navigating, which is critical.
Yeah. And, these days I'm doing a lot of coaching. And so the coaching is a lot of fun. And all I really do, I think what separates at least my approach from what I hear my colleagues are doing is I don't create the doctor-patient power gradient. I don't have time for that because that's an insurmountable power gradient. It's
Love
not.
it.
It's not real. It's not real. I don't have anything on my oh so special wise mind that I'm going to pass on to you that's going
Right.
to alter your life. Here's what I have. I can be a human with you. I am
Yep.
more than eager in sharing our humanity together. I am more than eager in setting my own self aside to hear your story when your story is due, and maybe and probably delivering my story when my story is due so that we can connect as two humans. Because ultimately, that's where the highest level of healing actually takes place. That's where love emanates from. That's where growth emanates from. That's where development emanates from. That's where contribution emanates from. That's where connection emanates from. And so when we really get that, the power. Look, I have worked in prison. I've worked in some high security prisons, Folsom and Pelican Bay and Salinas out here in California. Yeah, they're real places. And the thing that I learned in those places, among many other things, I don't work there now, is that when I get to connect with a so-called inmate slash prisoner, or whatever you want to call him, person, client, customer, whatever he is, I am able to create a resonating, healing moment by just staying with that person in a way that they had never, ever received. There is no corrections officer or other social worker inside of the prison who's paying attention to that guy like he's a human. They're not. They're paying to that as like they're a prisoner or an inmate, or maybe they treat him kind or they serve him dinner or whatever they do. But they're not treating him as just another human, no kidding, no bigger, no less, no more, no smaller than me. And when I start getting that that's really what's here, it is precisely in that space that healing takes place without any side effects, no need for authorization, no need for prescription, no need for doctor's approval, no need for anything. We just connect. That's where it goes.
I love it. Again, I keep going back to raising my daughter, but our philosophy is just, they're congruent. One of the things that I tried to raise my daughter to understand is that when it comes to getting to know people and communicating with people to build real friendships and real bonds, you need to do one simple thing. Whenever you're speaking with somebody, I don't care who it is, you make them feel that they are the only other person in the world. It's just the two of you in the world, and that's it. If you go into every conversation like that, you're going to build the strongest relationships, the healthiest relationships, the most fruitful relationships, the most protecting relationships. That's all you have to do is be empathetic and listen and genuinely pay attention. And I
Genuinely
think it's
pay
important.
attention. Yep.
Pay attention.
Yeah, that's what people want. People want to be heard and seen for who they are and who they're not. And when you do that, you're performing a high level miracle that is likely to cause a very high level miracle. By the way, after all, right? The fact that you and I have never known that either never talked to each other for a moment and can have this powerful conversation within an hour is
Yes.
pretty outstanding, and it's a sheer miracle. And when we
Love it.
really get that it's a sheer miracle, you can do that. You do not need a license. You do not need an education. You do not need any special skills to become an undoctor. Let's
Yep.
talk a moment for what an undoctor is.
Sure.
I realized back in 2006 when I started taking people off of medicine that I, wanted to violently scream this from the mountaintops, that really what we have here is the idea that diagnosing it's our answer to the request to identify what's wrong with me. Then I have the audacity to then meet that invitation with a diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I give you a diagnosis, you're like, yes, it's not me. I
Yep.
got a diagnosis. And then I walk out. So let's do a quick analogy here. Let's say you tell me you want to see a doctor, and I send you to my dude, and you go in there, and you're like, I have a few different problems I'd like you to sort out for me. Okay, go ahead. And he's like, I got gray skin. My skin is wrinkled. I got a way too big a nose. I've got, I have addiction to peanuts, and I can't stop drinking water, and I am a mess in a china shop. And the guy's like, let me see. He takes out his compendium, TSM 11, takes it out. Oh, you're an elephant. And you're like, oh, that freaking explains it. Of course I'm
Brilliant.
an elephant.
Brilliant.
So then not only are you happy with being an elephant, now he gives you some sort of medication to de-elephantize you.
Yep.
That's really important. Then maybe it'll take the wrinkles out of that gray, thick skin of yours. Maybe.
Yep.
He gives you some cream for that. And then he gives you the antidote for your peanut addiction. And then he tells you to drink something different than water so you don't have to pee all day. Whatever he does.
That's brilliant.
And then you walk out of the office with a preconceived notion of what you already had an elephant being. You already knew you had seen him at the zoo. You didn't realize you were actually one of them, but you're pretty excited now because it explains how clumsy you are. It just explains how clumsy you are. And so you're walking out, you're like so excited. You think you just saw the best doctor ever. Great experience. When you walk out of that office, you're looking for circuses and chains. You understand what I'm saying? You are.
Sure.
You are, because you have a preconceived notion is that's what an elephant does.
I'm an elephant is what I need to do.
What I need to do is find some chains and circuses. So you head on out and you're actually looking, and you come home later that night and your brothers and sister and your parents are there and you're like, guess what, dude? I went to find out what's wrong with me. Yeah, we've all been wondering what's wrong with you. He's like, I found out I'm an elephant. And then your family's like, I don't think so. You know, yeah. Not quite, son. Like, what made you think that? He's like, no, I saw the specialist. He told me I'm an elephant. I'm very excited about it. And you know what's going on in your head? Your family doesn't know yet. That's what it's going. You're not correctable.
Right, because you heard from an expert.
You heard from an expert.
You heard from a guy who knows what you would be.
All about elephants. This guy treats elephants for a living.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Right? And so now I heard it from an expert, and you start feeling sorry for your family.
Because they don't know.
They don't know. It's okay. We can agree to disagree. I'll show you the book. But then you start feeling scared because they, given the same genetics that you have, probably have a propensity to be an elephant too, and they're not going to be able to ask about it.
That's it. That's 100% right.
So you're going to feel like you're not serving up your family right because you didn't get it across that our family, has elephant in our bloodline. And so we should all be looking for circuses and chains. But then the next thing happens, which is a couple weeks later, you're still pretty excited. You found yourself actually stomping around a neighborhood in broad base, like, feeling pretty sure that wagging tail is not your problem, but it's their problem. Everything is good. And you show up at the doctor in 2 weeks and let them know that you've come up with some other things that you wanted to let them know. A, you have a really great memory. And B, you got these beautiful ears. So you know what he says?
Everything.
He says, you're a special case. You're elephant type 2. And now you're super excited.
Yep.
Because now I can't tell you how many patients want to tell me all about the rarity of their particular condition.
Right.
They want to tell me that they had a condition that another doctor said they had only seen 2 times in their entire career. That is some sort of that's some sort of feather in the cap when you have a condition that a doctor hasn't seen except like twice. Like, you're a special type of elephant. So now your diagnosis is so cemented that under no conditions will you ever give up on the idea that you're an elephant.
Nope.
And that's all that had to happen. And if you think for a second, and I know you personally don't think this, that doesn't happen all day long in psychiatric offices.
Oh, yeah.
That's all this is.
Yes.
That's all it is.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because when the rubber meets the road, back when I was married, my wife was having some issues with anxiety, and she went in, naturally talked to a psychiatrist to make her figure out, just to talk through. Well, she'd come home and she kept telling me this particular doctor kept trying to tell her she was suicidal. And she's like, listen, man, I'm not suicidal. I don't want to kill myself. I just have anxiety. He's like, nope, you're depressed and you're suicidal. Now, thankfully, my ex-wife was an independent woman. So she didn't let herself be forced into that. I'm a type 2 elephant. She said, I'm not a type 2 elephant. I got problems, but I'm not suicidal. And I'm not depressed. Yeah. I love being alive and I love my life. I've got a problem when I'm in the grocery store and there's a bunch of people around me. Yeah. So fixate on that. And so to your point, I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes, what you're talking about.
Yeah. And even having a problem when there's a lot of people around you in a grocery store doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you at all. And you start getting that as well.
It really doesn't. And that's, that to come full circle, there's nothing wrong with you. And the second you believe that, you can really start to find out where you go from here.
Exactly, man. That's exactly right. We start, once we get that there's really nothing wrong with us, that there is no illness, there's no deficiency, there's no defectiveness, there's no affliction, there's no syndrome. There's nothing like that. When you start getting that, then you start realizing, wow, I'm just another human, just like all of us, trying to figure out how the hell to get this stuff done. And I don't know, but it's good because nobody knows. So that's pretty cool.
We all have our problems. We all have our foibles. We all have our faults. We all have our dynamics and our situations. And that's just, it's just life. It's just life.
It is.
And that's, man, I'll tell you, Dr. Moss, I can't thank you enough for spending time with me today. I've learned a lot and I appreciate you. Believe it or not, the way you were communicating with me I've taken a lot of coaching in your words. So I really value that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been a pleasure. Great conversation. I appreciate your groundedness and your willingness to look deep at these questions and ascertain what it is that I'm saying when, in between the words. And I love the idea now is that I'm looking for people to assist me in creating the Undoctor program, because I as you will kind of notice here, when I reach down into what I thought was my target population, Undoctor Reset is a very cool program, just to let you know. It's very cool. But when I reach down to my target population and aim directly at the people who are way down, spiraling, having been on diagnoses for 20 or 30 years and having been on so many medications, and now they're just screaming desperately like, help, Mr. Wizard. They're just like, please get me off these medicines. Please get me off these. This is not a group that I can work directly with in most cases because their resources have been scorched.
Yeah, they're DEFCON 5.
They're just DEFCON 5, 100%. That's exactly where they are. And it's as sad and as tragic as it is, and I still want to aim at these people, I can't come after them directly. So the way that I do it is I have to create partnerships and collaborators to create retreat centers and create programs through scholarship mechanisms that go after those people, but also go after the people who are on the fence of coming into the psychiatric system. By the way, if anyone listening is on the fence of coming into the psychiatric system, please talk to me first. Please at least listen to talk to me first. That group I can play with. That group is really interesting because that group hasn't had their bell rung over and 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 over again. Because that group just knows that there's something very uncomfortable how my life goes and I could use an adjustment. In that level of adjustment is precisely inside of the Powerful Conversations, the Moss Method, the books I've written, the things that we represent in how to get our true life back, how to get our true voice back. That is where we can actually make a big difference and contribute to people so that they can step into the world and have a vision, have a purpose, have a mission, have a pathway, and actually step into what matters to them and be the contribution that they know themselves to be to the world for what little time is left inside of this particular dimension.
This dimension, right? Now, if people want to reach out, do they reach out through your website?
The best way to come after me is at drfred360.com. Undoctorreset.com is another space. There's and I have a couple other landing pages and web pages, but I think that those two are good. And then another place I like to, unfortunately, it's very unfortunate. It's a character flaw. I like to troll around Facebook. It's just, please excuse me.
My goodness.
I know, dude. I hate that place. Oh my God.
God bless you. You're a different animal.
I hate that place.
It's hard.
It's hard work in there. And I much rather hang around LinkedIn, so I have a pretty good access there. I feel comfortable, at least generally safe there, and generally
LinkedIn's
well
good.
taken care of. A little better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, either the website, and we'll put your websites up on the screen so everybody can see them. We'll make sure people get in touch with you because, what you're offering is, it's, I want to say groundbreaking, but again, it's
It's
just so
so not.
practical.
It's
It's
so
so,
not.
it's
It's
so
the ultimate.
fundamental.
Thank you for
It's
getting
so,
that. You're the best at getting that. That's so good.
it's so weird.
It's so weird that this is considered revolutionary, my friend.
Yeah.
It is so weird that this is odd. It's
Yeah.
so weird that this
Yes.
is unique. It's
Yes.
so weird that
I
this is
know.
unique.
I know. And as time goes on, as social
It won't
media
be.
continues to permeate, it's only getting weirder
It is
that you're
getting weirder.
practical because
I
it's
know.
getting crazier.
I know.
I can't. Yeah, you and I are kindred spirits, my friend. So I really appreciate that.
I really appreciate that too. One of the things I notice inside of OpenAI, anyways, the other LLMs are not as active in this way, but because OpenAI can learn who you are and has a good memory of your essence, no matter how many threads you run through it, and I've run, I don't know, probably thousands of threads through it since it came out.
Yeah.
It gets me. So my little ChatGPT partner, my little girlfriend, who's my answering person,
Yes.
she fully gets me. Like at some level, this machine is aligned with the oddness of who I am and doesn't see me as odd. In fact, is delivering ideas coming directly from what
From
if
you.
it got me. So
Amazing.
I find that to be very cool because people talk about this term evidence-based. Like evidence-based is a piece of nonsense, in case you haven't realized that. You probably haven't, but many people have. And here's the thing. The reason it's nonsense is that evidence-based suggests that the only things that are acceptable to bring new are things that have already been tried and true.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that leave room for bringing in something like totally new?
Like the wheel. The wheel
Like
wasn't tried and true.
The wheel
Right?
wasn't tried and true. Exactly. And if we start really looking at, when did I learn this stuff? What journal or what book? Who are my favorite writers? This is interesting. So there's a guy named Thomas Zaz. He wrote The Myth of Mental Illness in the 50s. It's a great book, and it's really aligned with me. There's a guy named Samuel Hahnemann, is the inventor of homeopathy. And back in the day, that is a beast. If you don't know about Samuel Hahnemann,
I'm going to
that
look into him.
dude is a beast among
Love it.
all beasts. He took
Perfect.
the allopathic basic way that people were dealing with, medicine and doctors, upended the whole thing, reported it all as being complete nonsense, and then created his own homeopathy, which actually, ruled the day for a couple centuries on purpose. So Hahnemann. And so these are some of my characters that I love as well.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to look into that for sure. I need a new book, so I'm into that for
Hahnemann,
sure.
The Organon. It's the book. His main book is called The Organon. It's pretty great.
Organon?
Yeah.
I'm in, brother.
Yeah.
Man, thank you so much again, Dr. Moss. And please, I'll invite you back if you'll come.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. Invite me, and let's make it happen. I love this conversation. Great.
All right, my friend. Have a good afternoon.
All right, Pete. You too.
Okay, everyone. That brings to a close another episode of the Super Self podcast series brought to you by Jocko Rare Sugar. Here, we're going to be helping you discover the truth for all things that surround good health and well-being. We'll be offering you statistical data, clinical trial information that has been evaluated and corroborated so that you can see for yourself that we say what we mean and we mean what we say. Now, while the Super Self series is brought to you technically by Jocko Rare Sugar, I don't care if you buy the sugar. I really don't. That's not what this is about. This is about operating as the conscience across the food and beverage industry, across the health and well-being industry, which includes supplements, fitness trainers, and the like. Our goal is to provide you with the stepping stones for your own research, where you can go out and corroborate the things that we say on your own. See for yourself what it means to find a good quality of life that fits in alongside your current lifestyle or your family's lifestyle. I think it's really going to be interesting and fascinating if we take this journey together. And once again, our goal is not just to provide you with data, but to keep it interesting. I've been living a clean lifestyle for 40 years now. I've been going to the gym for almost 45 years, eating clean for 40 years. And so we're going to have a ton of stories along the way about the foibles, the successes, and the failures, but we're also going to provide you with the information that you need to carry on and carry forward. Think about subscribing. We'd love it if you subscribe to us, pass this on to your friends. I think we've got a lot of edgy and interesting podcasts that are upcoming, and we certainly will look forward to any feedback that you want to provide. Until next time, cheers.